I'm Christopher Titus, and this is the Armageddon update. Well, people, guess what? It's all snapping back to liberty and freedom. Yes, in America, the Supreme Court has ruled that an innocent man sent to an El Salvadorian murder prison had to be brought back to the States immediately. Ha ha, good. Finally, the rule of law wins. And the Trump administration, oh, they told the Supreme Court, and this is a quote, go fuck yourself. So now here we are. That constitutional crisis we all were told to be deathly afraid of is here. And we're doing nothing. Well, not nothing. I mean, our president had a taint-licking contest in the Oval Office.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for your leadership.
Well, thanks to your fantastic leadership.
Thanks to your leadership.
Green paper mache.
And then a couple of comedians have been bending over and spreading for a fascist oligarch.
One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. It's funny stuff.
He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy.
You know, comedians, like we're supposed to punch up. We're supposed to go after evil and oppression, not do a ShamWow infomercial for it. So here we are in America. You know, in America, we were taught that this couldn't happen here. You know, that we wouldn't ever have a dictator, a fascist ruler whose flabby ass was chapped because his minions have French kissed it into oblivion.
You know, you were overwhelmingly elected.
Under your leadership.
When you called me that day asking for me to take this position, I was honored.
The founding fathers made sure this wouldn't happen, right? Right? Except we are barely 90 days in, and he shut down and raped agency after agency. He's threatened the media.
I believe that CNN and MSDNC, they're really corrupt and they're illegal.
He's threatened to send American citizens to the same torture prison that they sent the legal American resident to.
We also have homegrown criminals. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
I mean, the man wasn't a terrorist. He's not a criminal. In fact, he left his country to get away from gangs. He's a father with 3 American citizen children. And after Trump was ordered to bring this man, who our own government says they made a mistake with, a clerical error, our American president, whose mother was an immigrant, whose grandfather was an immigrant, and made his money with a American whorehouse, Trump's the only second-generation American, yet he refused to bring back a legal resident? And then he had the man who's imprisoning that man, the guy from El Salvador, over for cookies and dictator tots. It's weird, isn't it? How did this douche get elected? His rallies were half full, and people were leaving them in droves. Kamala's were like U2 and the Beatles had given out free tickets. Harris led him in the polls in August by 4 points. In September, she was leading him by 2 full points nationally. And in October, up on Trump by 2 to 4 points in most polls. How the fuck did he win? And why is he still bitching about a rigged election?
They rigged the election and I became president.
Well, as we've seen, Sweet Potato Hitler always accuses his opponent of doing what he's doing. And he got that from one of Hitler's buddies, Joseph Goebbels. Here is what he said. Always accuse your enemies of your own sins. Karl Marx also says something similar. So, Trump was down in the polls. People were leaving his rallies. The press was nailing his ass to the wall, except for Katie Tur. Katie, what is your deal? And yet, he still squeaked out a win. He won with less than half. How is that possible?
Thank you to Elon. He journeyed to Pennsylvania where he spent like a month and a half campaigning for me, and he was very effective. And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote-counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide, so it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon.
Always accuse your enemies of your own sins. And that's how my ex-wife cheated on me with 2 guys and somehow blamed me. I'm Christopher Titus, and this is the Armageddon Update. Something's fishy. That's all I'm saying. You know, we need to get those guys in to talk about why the election is so weird. How come the swing states have the weirdest levels of voting we've ever seen? Like, what is going on? And how the fuck do we do this? How the fuck do they just send a guy to a torture prison? They're like, yeah, sorry, we can't get him. We don't have an Uber. God damn it. Hey guys, Christopher Titus. Hey, We did something with this podcast that we haven't done. We had a group come in called the Election Truth Alliance who've been studying the voting data for the 2024 election and the 2020 election, and it's pretty eye-opening. So I want you to know it's a little heady on data, and just pay attention to it, because we got screwed. And when you see what these guys have, the one thing I always say is fact me or fuck off. These guys brought the facts. So enjoy this. It's going to be a long one. This is part 1. Hey everybody, Chris from Titus Podcast. How you doing? With me as always, the lovely bombshell Ray.
What's up, people?
And the Highlander.
There could be only one.
I don't know why we keep doing that. Why do we always?
Because we are in Nazi time.
We are. Yeah, but it almost kind of references you as one. The week by week insanity of this administration. Now, it was bad the first time, but we had General Kelly, even Rex Tillerson. When Rex Tillerson, the guy he brought in, was a Secretary of State, called him a fucking moron. So basically, he packs the Supreme Court, gets everybody on the Supreme Court. He can win now. And then they tell him, the Supreme Court 9-0 says, hey man, you got to facilitate getting this dude back. This guy who was innocent, he's got three American citizen kids legal. Yeah, legal resident.
Legal resident. No criminal record here or
left his home country because of the gangs.
Correct.
Claim he's a gang member.
Yes.
And now they're like, all right, you got to get him back from El Salvador. And the Supreme Court,
where do we go from here? Well, if he's not going to listen to the Supreme fucking court.
You know what he said though? We told him to fuck off. He's like, yeah, we're not doing it. Then he sits with the guy, the president. You see, he sat with the president of El Salvador, right?
Yes.
And and I've said in the Armageddon that they had dictator tots. They shared dictator tots, and they talked, and it was basically, we can't bring a terrorist back. He's not a terrorist. And I think what happens is, once the cult, remember when Trump said I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and I would still get more votes?
I do remember that.
I hate that he was right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you think they want to bring this guy back? At first I thought it's because, they can't bring him back because he's going to tell everybody what a nightmare this prison is. He's going to be on every news show in the world.
And lawsuit after lawsuit.
Lawsuit after lawsuit.
Yep.
And they got to pay it. Then I thought, nah, that's not it. Trump doesn't care about that. He's dead.
Then he said, if they bring him back, they're just going to deport him again. After they said it was a mistake the first time.
Well, so when he met with Bukele, they're obviously buddy.
Dictator buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And the president of El Salvador said, how could I return him to the United States? I smuggle him in? Of course I'm not going to do that. How could I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the same way he got here.
So Bukele, you got Bukele and Trump, you got Kim Jong-un and Putin. I think that they should just form a pickleball league of some sort. I mean, that would be just the dictators and have them go against Obama. Obama and AOC.
I love that you think that Trump could even jog 3 feet.
No, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping he would just lock up.
His little kitten heels would get stuck in the cracks.
And a couple of hits, we just lock up and it's over. Then we can move on.
They also this week, if you saw this, they're using, of course, the IRS. So the head of the IRS has stepped down. They have gone through the Social Security Administration because, his First Lady, Elon, has gotten access to all of that info. And so far, they have marked 6,000 immigrants deceased. They said they were only people with criminal records and gang affiliations. And there was a 13-year-old girl, a 14-year-old boy.
Because one thing gang members do first is make sure their IRS information is up and running.
Yeah, their paperwork.
I think whatever gang, your MS-13, they're like, hey man, hey Holmes, hey man, did you file? Yeah, did you file? You got to file, man. They're going to come after us, Holmes.
TurboTax, Holmes.
Penalties.
TurboTax, man.
But think about the implication of this, right? That if you mark someone dead, their life is over in a very literal sense because they cannot get
no social security number,
credit,
driver's license,
an apartment,
ID,
buy a house.
Nope.
Nothing, credit cards, nothing.
So
You're
what
dead.
that does is that forces them to leave. So
Correct.
basically what he's trying to get is everybody to self-deport. Now, what bothers me, and I'll say this again, I'm going to keep saying it, immigrants bring in $7 trillion every 10 years to our economy and $1 trillion in taxes. As I
say that part again. They pay taxes.
They pay taxes and they don't get benefits. The only thing they do get is like if they go to the emergency room. That's it. But they don't get health care, they don't get Medicare. And so $7 trillion every 10 years in economy, helping the economy, and $1 trillion in taxes. As I say on my new show, we don't need to build a wall, we need to build a train. We need to get more of them here to get this debt paid down.
And if they want to give the money, the tax cuts to the billionaires, hey.
I just think that if we're deporting people that were birthed by immigrants that are felons that have a criminal record, wouldn't we just deport
Yeah, because
Trump?
Trump's mom was an immigrant.
Exactly.
So also Barron too has to go. Barron has to go because she wasn't legal when he was born.
I don't think Melania is still not, right? Wasn't her paperwork all?
She's legal. She married Fatso
No, but she wasn't when he was born. She wasn't a citizen.
Yes, but his proposal, and I'm sure it is tied to that, is that one of the parents would have had to have been a citizen, and he was.
Right, but I'm still saying though, it's still this weird gray area where he's a piece of shit.
Just say that.
I'm just kidding. It's a gray area where he's a piece of shit. Every day.
Let's end birthright citizenship for one.
I am. Here's what's happening, and it's starting to see it. There was a video I just watched today. There was a woman that was at a town hall. It was a Republican town hall, and she is a Democrat, and she started kind of talking, and the sheriff came and goes, "You need to go right now." And she's like, I'm not going. Yeah, you can't kick me out. I'm not doing anything wrong. You have to go right now. I'm not doing it. 3 guys, just no markings, black outfits, just walk up and they start yanking her physically out of the thing.
But that's the thing, right? That we're talking about that these morons don't seem to grasp is that this is just one of the things that he's doing. Because he's also now floated the idea of deporting American citizens that are in prison. So he marks these people deceased. He says, oh, yeah, the gang ties, even though one of them's a 13-year-old girl. What is then the stopgap after that to stop him? So now he's talking about American citizens that are criminals. So what is going to be left to stop him from deporting every single person in this room?
If you know history, this is how it starts. We've got to get rid of the criminals. We've got to clean up Germany. You know what then we got to do? These dirty Jews are blah, blah, blah. We got to get rid of the Jews because the Jews are criminals. The Jews are ruining the banking system. We got to get rid of them. We got to put them in camps. Next thing you know, anybody who runs a podcast where they talk shit, I think they have to go next.
We have a
13-year-old girls are mean.
And you'll flip on me in a second. You'll be like, yeah, I was undercover. Yeah. Here's what else he did. You should hear what he said in the office.
Did you catch all that?
Because if they're just saying, which is what's happening with the guy from Maryland, if they're just saying, well, we know that he has gang ties, we know he's a criminal, but there's no actual proof of that.
There's no criminal record.
What is there to protect any single one of us?
Yeah, but they don't get that.
Terrorists. You're a terrorist.
They quote everybody that voted for this man thinks he ain't coming after me.
It's always about they all think they voted against the Dems, own the libs. They're only changing their tune when it affects them personally. And they even say, it's all about, I'm voting for me and my family or whatever.
Yeah.
Not everybody else.
Well, just very expensive.
Well, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that was when some of them woke up because suddenly it wasn't just the guy of color or the poor guy down the street. It was them all of a sudden.
I would like to talk about the cattle ranchers that just lost a couple days ago $2.5 billion worth of contracts with China. China's. This should be clear. After last week, guys, I have to apologize for last week's Armageddon update because everything's happening so fast. We usually tape on Wednesday, the Armageddon update Tuesday, and by after 24 hours or 48 hours, it's like 30 years late.
Yeah.
We're 30 years late on shit. How is that possible in 3 days?
We really need to do one every day, including weekends.
I'm gonna have to start doing my short ones again in front of the green screen. But so we've now lost. All of these farmers lost $2.5 billion. China's canceling the contracts. China started trolling us on Instagram and TikTok this
they
week.
canceled
Did you see
all
it?
of the Boeing planes.
All the planes from Boeing gone. They canceled all of it. That's billions. And how many American jobs is that? This guy, he was handed the best economy worldwide. Here you go. I've never seen such a fuck up. The only thing I can think is that whatever Putin has on him, whatever Putin has threatened him with, is that he's just going to tank the economy of Putin.
He'll be fine.
Putin wants to prove that democracy doesn't work. That's what he wants to prove. And if you look at the history with Trump and these guys, it's what it seems like he's doing, doesn't it? And then Elon's been talking to Putin. I'm like freaked out. Speaking of that, we're getting to this place now where the Russian elections, our elections, things are starting to get a little weird. So
I just wanted to say something about that real quick before you go to the election stuff, because I know shit's about to get real in this room.
Only because we had so many people interested in it after I watched it. Yeah.
But refer back to one of our first video podcasts was Kathy Griffin. And she actually ended up making a documentary about it. Remember?
Yep.
And all she did, she was friends with him. Friends, like everybody was with Trump. You know, he was the fat orange boob that everybody made fun of and drank his good liquor when they went to Vegas. And
he never had good liquor, just be clear.
He
failed at selling vodka. Sorry, I just want to point that out.
So he makes a really sexist comment about Megyn Kelly, who's now back up inside of his asshole, about how she's bleeding out of her eyes, her ears, her whatever. Trying to say why she was gave him hard questions. So Kathy Griffin, I think Vanity Fair, they do a cover where she holds the Trump mask and they put ketchup on it like it was blood, and she's holding it, and it's a comical cover. He literally ended her career. We went to her house and she told us, he put her on the no-fly list. How do you think she makes money? Interpol was investigating her. NSA, CIA, FBI. I mean, she couldn't even leave her house it took until he was gone.
Listen, if we ever get busted for something like that, I like the strip search at the airport. I'm like, fine. I'm like, you're right.
Can't fly. I guess they're gonna have to just hang out.
When they go, we need the strip search. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like,
she couldn't fly. He wouldn't let her. I mean, she could not enter an airport.
But he's doing that now. He is. We've never had such a child as president, such a petulant.
And that was round one.
Bully fuck as president. It's like crazy to me that, and what the weird thing is to me is that the intelligence level of America is so low right now. Thank you, Reagan, for actually starting to destroy that. But these people are like, yeah, that's my guy. Well, is he that guy, your guy now? Because prices are through the roof. Eggs are the most expensive they've ever. He said this like, here's how little he respects his voters. So eggs hit the highest they've ever hit last week. He said eggs have dropped 79%. He said it out loud. And you could literally just go, brink. No.
In his diaper. That's the only place eggs are dropping.
Very nice. Very nice.
Hi, I'm 5.
So I watched a video of some election results that statistically were impossible. And the guy that was doing it, Nathan, broke it down in a way. He's pretty heady as a dentist. We call him a very smart man, very dentisty, very.
It's a compliment.
And he didn't do it. He's not a dumb guy like me. He's a really smart guy. And
we can't even say the word statistics.
You and I had to practice.
That was our prep.
Statistical. We had to practice it yesterday.
Can you say what he is if he studies statistics?
He's a statistician.
Okay.
I'm going to have to put a chyron on top of this.
He's a statistician. There you go. It's easier to say it like that, by the way.
Okay, good.
So he's a dentist and he's a statistician. He's not a dentist himself, but he's a statistician. And I watched it twice, and then I talked about it on the podcast, and it was 10, just me talking about it. Everybody has this feeling that shit has gone horribly wrong and somebody pulled a con on us. Yeah. And
it's what we said when it happened. None of it made sense. And actually, I still remember Election Truth Alliance. I still remember when Hillary lost and how stunned we were. I mean, I burst into tears. That was shocking. This was that to the nth degree.
Because we already knew who he was.
Made zero sense. We were looking at record-breaking historical fundraising.
And turnout.
And response, and turnout. Yeah. And not only that, Roe v. Wade. I mean, we saw all of these
women.
All the signs of
votes
running up to it said he's losing big time.
Yeah, off-cycle elections, things like that we saw, where even Ohio codified Roe v. Wade, and we were like, we got this. The dude held. I still have to go back to this. We knew we had it when he did the town hall
with the playlist,
and just ended up playing music and doing
YMCA.
What the fuck for 45 minutes?
Yep. Whereas Kristi Noem was like, what am I doing here? Kristi Noem lost her shit. You could just see her like her just glazing
up
over
her resume. It was
I guess so then it happened the way it happened. He only won by, first of all, he won with less than half with 49%. He keeps talking about a mandate, but it was 1.4% more votes based on what they have. They also denied 4.5 million of votes. They said they were legal votes, but they were denied. And then people were like, wait, my vote didn't get registered. Oh yeah, sorry, election's over. Yep. So I would like to bring on Nathan Taylor from the Election Truth Alliance. Come on in. I read something this week. Fascism doesn't just leave. Fascists don't go, you know what? We lost the election. We're out now. That doesn't happen. So what I want to talk about, this is, by the way, Nathan Taylor, ladies and gentlemen, from the Election Truth Alliance. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
You were on another podcast, not as good as this one, but it was another one. And I saw everything you did, and it sucked me in so hard. And as she knows, I'm not a math guy. And I had to watch it twice, and we finally got to a place where I was like, holy shit. And whatever I cleared up here when I talked to our people, they went through the roof watching it. So tell me about Election Truth Alliance. Tell me what you guys do, why you guys do what you do, and what you're up to. And then we'll get into the stuff where you're like, what?
The data.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you got excited. Look at you. He goes, the data.
Well, so listen. All right. A little bit about me then, and then the ETA. Yeah. This is my job now. It's been more than 4 months in the making. Every day. There is no weekends for me anymore. This is it until we get to where we're going. This is what I focus on.
Or you and I both fall out a window for talking about it.
Well, airplanes are the thing nowadays. But
true that.
So a little bit about why we're here and what we care about. So the ETA is the Election Truth Alliance.
Right.
It is only a few months old. It was founded just after the election, and the reason why the ETA exists today is because me and two other amazing people said, hey, no one is looking at this. We thought right after the election, prior to the election, right, there was some weirdness where, there was record levels of engagement in an election, which we've never seen before in my lifetime. Yeah. There were endorsements.
Just us seeing it on TV, watching people bail on his rallies, bail on him like they were watching a shitty movie. And then on her rallies, it was packed solid, going crazy. Beyonce, come on,
but
man.
You mean overall participation in an election?
Yeah, I'm just talking about what I see.
And that's the thing. Yeah,
noticing what dumb guys.
He just had to say Beyonce.
Yeah, see, there you go.
I love it. But no, so the ETA conceptually doesn't care about political parties, right? We're nonpartisan, and that's why the data matters. Is because
this is why I loved it, because the way you presented it was not fuck him like I do. It was just data. And I always say, this is one of my big phrases, fact me or fuck off. Because that's what we do on the show. Okay. And you facted the shit out of me. I was like, all right, we got to see things.
So what first got your attention?
So the main thing that got my attention was, hey, we're going into an election. I saw people engaged in voting that I've never seen vote in my life. I've seen people talk about politics and say, hey, this is a big deal. People should vote. I've never seen that going up to this, because they're like, hey, I feel like this is potentially, you got really two polarized groups here coming up. Right. And if you didn't care before, you should care now. Yeah. So that's what I saw.
Some of the people voted had people die from COVID, and they're like, this cat can't win again. And so I'm getting involved now.
Yeah. So that was 2020 specifically kind of. So the reason why I even paid attention. I'm not political. Like I try and stay away from all of that. Try and focus on, other things.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And here I am. So that didn't work out very well. But the main thing was seeing the margins of victory after election night and the way that it occurred. And we'll talk about it in the presentation. You had briefly talked about it as well. And I believe your last podcast where you highlighted 7 swing states being one for one candidate. That's not happened in a very long time. And what was
it Reagan? Was it Reagan?
I think it was Reagan in like 1984. So we'll have the hard numbers.
Meaning that those 7 swing states obviously are crucial to any candidate. That's how but typically it's split. Kamala would get some, Trump would get some, right?
Yeah. And as we'll see in the PowerPoint here in a little bit.
He's so excited about this PowerPoint.
I also have this feeling that Nathan is like you with certain things. It has to go a certain way.
There's a process. There's a process. But
I'm like,
stop jumping ahead. Yeah. So I have a PowerPoint.
The last thing I'll say is 7 swing states, but the margin of victory is, as we'll talk about, improbable with the way it was won. Yeah, but here with the ETA and why we're here, right?
Right.
So I got together with a few other people. We started talking, what is the chances of this occurring and all the weird stuff that happened. We talked about bomb threats. And so that tipped me off. That tipped off Lily and Jive, who were there's 3 of us, the co-founders of the Election Truth Alliance. So I am technically the executive director of public relations or outreach or media, so I'm the face.
You're not the guy. You're the tech guy.
I'm just the tech guy. I actually don't do anything but just talk. But
so can you tell us, just let the people know just quick what those people do that run ETA so that we know their qualifications.
Because what we want to do is, if you guys can help them, listen, we all know something was weird. There is the one thing I know about doing stand-up for so long is that an audience, a group of people know when something's off. And that's just in a comedy club. If you're not telling the truth, you're not being authentic. There's a collective consciousness that understands it. We all, when this happened, went, what the fuck? Something's wrong.
My inbox was blowing up. I posted a video. The next day, people were like, my mail-in votes aren't counted. And I'm like, okay. And then it was thousands of people saying, something's up. You need to, someone needs to talk about it.
So before we start, I want to say,
let him give their qualifications.
I know, but wait. I want to say, I want to make sure that we actually donate to these guys, because what they're actually doing is what we all think needs to be done. We're trying to find. So go with the Election Truth Alliance. And if you do what you can, because what they're using the money for is they're going to get some attorneys, and we're going to try to get some of like these
Election Truth Alliance.org.
Audited,
we
right?
We have a donate option. Yep. Audits, recounts are
over now.
More of an election-based term. Audits are about validity.
Okay. And I have some people that I know in the government that I may be able to get this to.
Yeah, everything, I think, background-wise, before we get sidetracked, and I'm sure we're going to get sidetracked so much.
That's my job.
But I love questions, so you can always jump in after this. Let me finish, and then you can have all your questions.
All right.
Because there's a few things background-wise. Lily is a political science expert. She's worked in organization. So she kind of brought me and the other co-founder together because I was doing this alone, talking about the concerns. The other co-founder, which is Jive, he's the credentialed statistician that kind of opened the door for everything. He found the first statistical concerns by looking at drop-off vote, which we'll talk about. He was looking at what has been coined as a Russian tale by election experts in Russia, and that's showing up in America for our elections. So he was the first one to open the door for the actual data, and then I jumped on top of it because I was like, hey, I'll talk about this. I'll break it down a bit better so people can understand it, and then it's kind of gotten us to this point. I've been on all kinds of live streams. I've been on shows. What sucks is this hasn't been easy to get to this point.
Yeah. It's more of a resume. You're giving me a resume at this point.
Yeah. Well,
been on all kinds of shows. I'm doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Well, what sucks is I didn't really know what I was getting into in the beginning, right? I thought it was be like, hey, we need to talk about this because if this is real, this is a big deal. And it doesn't matter if the election's over because if our democracy is being manipulated, that's the most core tenet of being an American. We founded a country because people weren't being represented correctly.
Yeah.
And so here we are. And if this is if this is real, which the data is very concerning, Well, we're going to find out, right? That's the whole point of the audits.
Okay, so what was the first thing you guys know?
I do just want to say that Election Truth Alliance is a nonprofit organization. So if you do donate to them, it's tax deductible, and you're saving democracy.
And guys, we don't ask for a Patreon or anything on this podcast. So if you can help these guys out, we're going to try to fix this. So what was the first thing? Now let's start now, because we've set it up. We know you've done a lot of shows.
He's ready.
He's ready. You ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Come ready. What was the first thing you guys noticed? Like where you thought we have to dig into this deeper?
Did you want the PowerPoint for this portion?
We are
sure.
so ready.
Anytime. You pulled it up anytime you want.
All right. Well, so
we're excited. It's like porn for us.
I anticipated this. So here you are. Here's your hey, what the crap was going on? And this is the concerns.
Okay, let's go over each one.
Yeah.
200 bomb threats. Were those mostly in Democratic districts?
So these were spread out throughout the country, but they were focused more around larger population centers. And they came in through email. We have kind of a breakdown slide to follow. What was concerning here, and people are like, hey, why? Why would you have done bomb threats? With my background, I forgot to mention my background specifically, but I'm a cybersecurity guy, but I was a 25 Bravo computer tech specialist in the Army Reserves. So I kind of saw a little bit of everything. And the red flag for this was, given the way our system works, and we'll talk about the more of the equipment, it's why would you have bomb threats on election night? And who investigated this, right? Because that's a big deal. Why are we getting bomb threats?
Especially 200 of them.
All over the country. And the concern here is it's not as much who did them, but what could have been the impacts.
And my question is
for
this.
people listening and not watching, what he's talking about is there were over 200 bomb threats on election day.
Has this ever happened?
Largely in swing states.
Not that I have found or recall.
So we've had in our election history in America, at least in the recent history, and let's go back to 1900. We've never had a bunch of bomb threats called in. It seems like a plan. 200 bomb threats on election day seems like a coordinated plan, doesn't it?
Potentially coordinated, and that's the concern, and that's how it ties in.
I don't think 200 morons got together, just randomly. Okay, so statistician, what are the odds that 200 separate people on the same day decided to call in bomb threats? I can picture fire. We're going to come by with a drive-by, but to specifically call in bomb threats, it doesn't commute.
And they were email-based too.
They were all email-based.
They were email-based.
Okay, so they all did the same plan. Awesome.
And I got to double check as well, but when there was investigations, it was concern of a Russian email domain type deal.
Okay,
so that was very weird.
So are we still finding? Do we have any information that was a Russian-based server?
Well, that's the fun thing is the investigation for a lot of this has not really produced anything. Government-wise, it's not really a priority.
I just heard everybody turn the podcast off.
Well, because who's running the DOJ that would need to initiate these investigations now?
Okay, so bomb threats, 7 swing states.
Yeah, so the 7 swing states. What's important here is it's one candidate swung all 7 outside of the margin of automatic recount, which requires you to win over a certain percent. And now, after Pennsylvania had finally finished all of their issues, we're seeing that it's sub 50% of the popular vote. So to win all 7 swing states, under 50% of the popular vote requires you to win in only the places that matter in each swing state or get enough votes in total. That happening across all 7 swing states naturally is very unlikely because that's not how people vote.
Right.
And you win an election by winning the swing states.
Right.
All 7 is, that would require you to have a mandate from the American people, but then you're getting sub 50% of the votes, which doesn't dictate a mandate.
Did Reagan win all 7?
I think he won 49 out of 50 of the states at the time. Swing states were a little different. They're more, between elections. So they do shift around a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll cover that. And the last 2 things here that really concerned us as we got deeper, if you're familiar back in, I believe, 2022, with some of the lawsuits coming out of 2020's concerns with elections, the voting equipment has come up time and time again.
Right.
And so there's actually been cybersecurity experts publish their concerns about the voting equipment, saying duty to warn letters talking about, hey, we have concerns that if you were to compromise these systems or whatnot, you could impact voting. impact our elections. And so 70% of the US uses the same type of tabulation equipment.
Company?
I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to.
Oh, so
and let me just say really quickly, because we moved past that one, but you were right. Trump was the first candidate in over 4 decades to capture all 7 key swing states. And the last one was Reagan in '84 against Walter Mondale.
Yep. Mondale got, even then, we'll talk a little bit about that toss up, and we'll see how it differs from this one in the next slides.
I don't want to just blow past this. So when you say compromise,
well, we'll be coming back. There's
when you say
he's got a PowerPoint.
I know, and I know it's making him nuts on doing this. But when you say compromise of voting machines, does that mean they are programmable? Are they able to be hacked? I mean, that's what I'm kind of asking. I mean,
these are good questions.
These letters that you said people sent, did those letters say these are the experts? Did the experts say they were able to be hacked?
The experts raised concerns of known compromises of the voting equipment by lawsuits in 2022 and other actors.
Okay.
Known concerns of, hey, if you could have done this, these machines would have been how, and there's opportunities that have already happened.
But what the common statement was, they're not ever connected to the internet. And so a group of 10 independent cybersecurity experts who specialize in voting systems and elections dove into this. And so NBC published this is it's a few months old, but at that time they had already found over 35 voting systems, not machines, that had been left online. And they said they were continuing to find more. And this was the advocacy group National Election Defense Coalition.
So a caveat here is there are buzzwords when it comes to the election machines, but there's really, for us, 2 types of machines.
Right.
There's the machine you vote on, or you do a hand-marked paper ballot and you submit it.
Yeah.
So either way, you're voting on these machines or on paper. And the hand-marked paper ballots, as they're called, those get counted by another machine. And so there's really 2 different types. There's voting machines and there's tabulation machines. Mm-hmm. So voting machines generally aren't connected to the internet. They're sitting there, they're disconnected, and you vote on them. But the thing is, and the reason why we bring this up is it's not who votes, it's how you count the votes.
Correct.
And there's vote counting machines that are generally different, depends on some type. Some have some like chained systems, but nonetheless, it's the vote counting computers. And there was a quote prior to inauguration night from an individual at his pre-inauguration rally highlighting a certain person's knowledge of vote counting computers.
Yeah, we will have that video. We've posted that video. Yes.
Yeah. And so we've been publishing similar quotes and concerns, and it's the vote counting computers.
It's not just one.
Oh, we have 6 or 7 different quotes.
And in this investigation, the 3 largest, ES&S, Dominion, and Hart InterCivic, have now acknowledged that they put modems in a large percentage of their tabulation machines and scanners.
And so the way that generally works is after everyone's voted and those votes are being counted or submitted, those machines count, and then they are transferring the data.
Yes.
And so
through a modem online.
Some have modems, some
they said to get the info to the public more quickly.
So let's be clear. So there is a way to actually get these machines online.
I would bet it's in the PowerPoint.
Holy shit.
We do talk a little bit.
All right. I'm trying to keep it interesting.
Yeah. No, it's, yeah.
And it is, by the way. And you go dense and I'm like, all right.
Yeah. And the fun part too is as we'll talk about.
Bad cop. You're bad cop.
Okay. I'm the good guy. No. All right. But here's your bomb threats. I know all over the US, they're not just located in the swing states, but you do see a lot in Pennsylvania, as we're going to highlight.
You do see a lot in the Pennsylvania.
And our data focuses on Pennsylvania a lot.
Wow.
But it was very spread out. So it wasn't just the swing states, which was the concern. And so I asked this question more rhetorically, but I'm very interested in your thoughts. Why would you submit bomb threats? What is the point of going to these polling locations 100% and emailing?
To keep people, look, at the end of the day, nobody wants to die.
Right.
At the end of the day, and there's people that are like, I'm voting no matter what. That's me. I'm psycho. At least I'll make the news.
Yeah.
But most people are like, if there's bomb threats, I'm not going. Or they close down the polling place.
And they did. They closed down
And
polling
they did.
locations all across the U.S.
They would have to.
Pennsylvania, we had some
Which would
some
cut the
accounts.
vote by a lot, and that so maybe
And in rural areas like that, the next polling place,
Right. It'll be like-
voting place is, 60 miles away or something. And older people are not gonna do
going.
that.
And our
younger
concern
people.
as well, people speculate, and I don't want to get into speculation on, would that be a window to mess with any equipment?
That's
It doesn't truly matter because at the end of the day, our analysis shows concerns of the tabulators would have been an opportunity to do the things we're going to talk about.
okay.
And
I do have a suggestion.
What's that?
From back here, it's hard to tell. Are those Trump? Is that Trump hair? Is that what that is? All those little symbols?
Yeah.
Just-
Everybody that's listening is like, what
is he
Do us a
talking
favor.
about?
Why is Ken
change those to
talking?
Trump hair?
That would-
Or his little face.
But that would mean that Trump called it. Trump didn't do the blackface, so they can't do that. We have, by the way, we have to keep these guys from getting sued.
Unless, change it to red hat.
Oh.
The whole crew's
Red
nodding
hats.
right behind you right now. Go ahead.
Yes.
See,
So-
see how much easier I am to deal with. Go ahead.
The last point.
Don't
that
worry,
we-
I'll change it in post.
This episode brought to you by OneSkin.
Yep.
I love all of OneSkin's products. If you don't know what it is a company that was started by four women
Scientists.
scientists who
Go on.
PhDs.
Hold on. Don't look at Ken's browser history.
They
Women
went
in
into
skin?
the lab and they found they tested a whole bunch of things and they found the OS1 peptide. It is the first peptide that is scientifically proven to target zombie cells, which are those dead senescent cells that we have that contribute to aging, the look of aging, wrinkles.
And I've gotten rid of a lot of
saggy.
mine. I still have some.
What? But OneSkin has a new product. So I just want you guys to know that we love the OS1 face.
Yep,
I
I use
love
that.
the OS1 body. This is something that they actually went into the lab and you can go on their website and read the studies about it. They found that OS1 was the first ingredient to reverse skin's biological age.
And doesn't smell like a bunch of fragrance. It's just really clean. It goes on easy. I love it.
Gets rid of signs of aging, including lines, wrinkles, sagging skin. So go on their website and read about it. But they have this new product that is OS1 hair. And I was originally very excited about this for Highlander. So it's a daily scalp serum that tackles the zombie cells in your scalp skin. And so instead of obviously targeting lines and wrinkles, it combats aging cells in your hair follicles, which reactivates your hair growth cycle.
I think we should try this as an experiment.
This is going to be like a Netflix series.
I think we need to
Zombie cells on the Highlander's head.
We need to mad scientist this shit. I'm ready.
If you're dealing with hair loss, thinning, or shedding, there's nothing to shed except from your face. But your head, I think that we need to do a little Titus podcast R&D with that head.
There's no zombies on your head.
They're up there.
They did a 3-month clinical study, of course, because they base everything on science. They found actual improvements in hair density, fullness, and overall scalp health. And it comes with a derma roller that actually you roll and it opens up. It gives you it's like kind of like when you have lawn shoes.
Yeah, lawn shoes. Basically,
snowshoes.
So founded and led by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with that proprietary OS1 peptide. You can get 15% off all those different things that we talked about if you use promo code Titus at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with a promo code Titus. At the end, after you buy something, tell them that you were sent by the Titus podcast. That helps us out. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin and scalp with OneSkin because your future you will thank you.
And Nathan?
The last point we make is the concern here is paper ballot custody. Because if people had voted up to that point, bomb threats come in, polls close, then you're technically breaking the chain of custody for the paper votes. And legally speaking, if there was a recount, then there's a argument of saying, hey, because there was a break in chain of custody, can we truly trust those paper votes are correct? which was a concern.
So there is, with the bomb threat thing, there is literally 7 things you could do to
100%.
totally fuck with the vote.
Opportunities.
People don't show up. You got people that you close the polling place, which, by the way, even if it closes for a little while, that's how many people didn't get to vote, which also limits the vote. Then you got, let me finish, and then you have what you just said. So when you say break the chain, that people, so they have to clear everybody out. They have to clear everybody out because of a bomb threat.
Do we know
so now the ballots are there.
An example of that is breaking that chain of custody?
Yes. So the way our election system works is you take account, you track, legally speaking, votes cast, secure them, who transferred them where are they at. And so you close down the polling locations. Who's then accountable for those paper votes that have already been cast?
Who's guarding the votes?
Right. Who's guarding the votes? And it's generally like the poll workers that are volunteered there or working there. And we don't want to get into some of the other concerns, but if you were to have focused on multiple ways to influence an election, poll workers is a really good way of potentially having opportunities. You've got as well disenfranchising voters. And so there has been some things come out in concerns to a more organized attempt to get people engaged in being poll voters.
All that aside, because I like that we get into the minutia, but all that aside, 200 bomb threats when we've never had that in an election, and we've got, like, this guy's a 34-time convicted felon who's up for doing any con to win. It's just the 200 bomb threats alone is such a wait, what?
And this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Well,
keep going.
so do you remember though that you kind of just addressed this a little bit, but after the 2020 election, one of the biggest movements of those fringy groups like the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio specifically sent out emails calling for people to go and get low-level government jobs or volunteer to work at election centers.
So if you got a bunch of Proud Boys being poll workers, bomb threat gets called in, those guys get cleared out, whoever has to watch the votes.
Cowboys for Trump guy, remember?
Oh my God.
He was the one that he actually was on the election board.
Right. So this is all, okay, I get it.
That's New Mexico.
But again, that comes to what's possible. 200 bomb threats happened. That's crazy.
Documented. And over 200. We correlated 200 at least, and that's on here.
All right, keep going. Tell us what's going on.
The main concern here is,
right now. I'm furious at this point.
The final point we want to make is this is a concern because it shows a potential organized effort against our elections.
Yeah.
Right. And that is what it would take, the beginning of what it would take.
That's right. There's no way a bunch of randos on the same day called in. There's
organized is the key word here.
Someone figured this out. Right.
Yes. So that is one of just a few things that concerned us. Here's what I feel like a lot of people are concerned about is 7 swing states for one candidate. When was the last time and what does that even look like for most people?
And Nevada was the first red flag on this, right?
Nevada they have 2 very large counties, and that's where a vast majority of their voters are.
Right.
And those, and they normally are very more liberal as it's added out. So they did swing red this time around. And then we actually looked at Nevada. But when it comes to when was the last time someone did something like this, as you said, 1984, Ronald Reagan. The swing states were slightly different then, but he won 49 out of the 50 states.
Right.
And what's important here is he won with a super majority of the votes of the locations. And even then, as we'll highlight in a following slide, we look at the actual counties that are won per state and see where those don't add up either.
How old are you, by the way? May I ask?
I'm 26.
Okay, so just so you know, I was alive during this, and I remember when this happened. The reason that Reagan destroyed Jimmy Carter came across as kind of a nebbishy kind of, we all know that Carter ended up being the best humanitarian, probably like Mother Teresa level, right? But I remember at the time we were demoralized. The helicopter crash when he tried to get the hostages out, all that stuff. And I remember Reagan was like, well, we're gonna go in and he was just, we needed Reagan at that time because we had been demoralized. Mm-hmm. I remember Reagan winning. No one had a question why he won. So keep going. Go ahead.
So from 24 to 20. So 20 is the first, and you see it shift. I want to highlight this because to win a state, you must win a majority of the votes across the counties. You win the counties generally. And so what we see is in the 24 election, for the Republican candidate for president, they flipped 88 counties to their party this time around, and the Democrats flipped 0.
Wow.
0 counties. And you see it all across the country. It's not just in the swing states. This is a concern because
it's impossible.
The last, like, even when in 1984, right, Ronald Reagan, landslide victory, Mondale still flipped 30 counties blue. And this was nowhere close to that level. And 0 counties flipped to the Democrats is a concern.
Wow.
And
has someone done a statistical analyzation of that? Like, what would that be? What are the odds this happens?
So what is exceedingly frustrating about statistics is when it comes down to the odds, elections are vague because people will argue until the ends of the earth. You can and cannot do certain statistical things with elections. They'll say, hey, you can't add 7 swing states as a flip of the coin analysis because voting is more dynamic than that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there is no level of math that would argue this isn't a concern and this does need to be investigated because it's improbable this would happen naturally.
And let me add
it points at a bigger issue.
Let me add the humanity part of it. This is also wasn't some crazy badass like Obama figure that came in and we knew that he was just the best. He's going to flip 80. This was a guy who literally had just got out of court. The only reason he avoided going to jail was because he won the presidency. So this was a guy who we saw be a scumbag over and over. He actually, 1 million died on his watch last time. This guy does not have, again, couldn't sell water, steak, and vodka.
The guy who had already lost.
The guy who already lost the election before. So for that guy to come in after what he did with COVID, after destroying the economy, after bankrupting farmers, to come in and flip 88 counties is literally insane.
And the last time that was done was almost 100 years ago, and it was FDR.
It would also mean that everybody had the bird flu and were crazed. That's what it would mean. The only way that happens is if we all had the bird flu, we all got insane, and we voted. And so this is impossible. I will call this is impossible to happen.
And the reason why we highlight this is because when you start putting all of these pieces together, this is what kickstarted us making the Election True Alliance. This is what kickstarted us investigating elections and saying, hey, if the government's not going to actually check on this and make sure this is correct,
we have to start making noise
and validate our elections, right? Then someone's got to do it. And I guess it's going to have to be us. And I guess it's going to be, a third party, nonpartisan, independent organization because there's nothing like no one's out here really digging into this and making it well known.
And do you guys understand, everybody listening and watching, that Reagan, the white Jesus to the Republican Party, Reagan won 49 of 50 states, and still Mondale flipped 30 counties blue.
And Kamala Harris, the first, just women alone.
Yeah.
Also, we've also got women getting all the rights taken away, and we have a woman like Morty president, like it's going to be history making. And for some reason, we didn't flip one
county,
not fucking one.
Not
so that makes zero sense.
Yep. And so this is where we said, what could have caused this, right?
Okay. All right.
And this is where we begun to publish our concerns. And so we said, and actually right off the bat, right after the election, a few days, I think less than 7 days, Stephen Spoonamore, a notable cybersecurity expert in, I believe, Ohio, he put out a duty to warn letter, and he said this. He said, I have concerns. I've seen something like this before in Ohio, 2004. He was looking at election fraud then. He said, I have concerns that this could have been a compromise of a tabulation, our tabulation system, and a potential vote change or vote addition or whatever's going on. And he published that. He put his name on it. He was the first one to do this. And he said, this needs to be looked at. And he gave us some numbers. He started talking about what was at the time called bullet ballots. I don't know if you've heard anything about bullet ballots.
So bullet ballots is when someone votes for just the president and that's it.
So in that case, yes, what you're looking at is a vote for the one party presidential, and then it doesn't match any down ballot candidates. It's just
even
it's
if
a free
even
vote.
if so even on the ballot, if they voted, they would vote like a Republican president, all Democrats. Like it doesn't match.
In the case of a bullet ballot, it's just the president. You didn't
Right.
vote anything else.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
So what's the percentage normally of that over the years?
So we did a little bit of math in the beginning. Generally speaking, it's not a lot. It's some places like the Democrats specifically, it's always less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah. For the Republicans, it's a little higher actually. I think they had a couple more, 1 to 2%. But at the end of the day, this was the beginning of looking into this. And so he said, hey, bullet ballots could be people adding votes. And it would correlate, right? Because you'd add in a vote for say, right? Let's say you've compromised the tabulation systems. Everyone's voted, and then you vote extra. You put extra just presidential votes on top at the end, and that pushes someone up.
So you're telling me, so let's say you write an algorithm for the programming that basically what it does is at a certain number of votes, it actually starts adding bullet ballots.
So this is
possible.
This is separate to what we're doing.
Right.
We're highlighting what the initial concerns were.
Right. I'm not saying that happened. I'm saying that's what the concerns are.
That was the concern. Is you would have wrote an algorithm
See
that
how I'm
added
trying
votes
to
in.
avoid the lawsuits, guys? Do you see
Well,
how I'm hard
so-
at
Added
work
the votes
into
in.
that?
In the investigation that NADC was doing, also the companies ES&S, one of the top 3 voting machine companies, producers, their website says 0 of those tabulators are connected to the internet. ES&S then told NBC News that 14,000 of their DS200 tabulators with online modems are currently in use. They then asked Hart. They said approximately 1,600 tabulators in 11 counties in Michigan, and Dominion declined to respond. So suddenly, because
Wait a
we've been
minute.
told...
I thought you 0. You said it was 0, guys.
Yeah.
Didn't you say it was 0?
Okay.
All right, we can't get back to you. Click.
And what's interesting here is you have on the left is one brand, on the right is another. I'm not going to name brands, obviously, but you have your most prominent brand on the left. And you're seeing that when both of these brands are actually combined, you're overlapping 70% of the U.S. is voting infrastructure when it comes to tabulators.
Okay.
And this is the top 2. There's a few other brands as well that are of concern. And the reason why we even did this, Spoonamore was like, hey, it could be the tabulators. Let's look into it.
What's the concern? You said these are what is the concern?
The concern here is if you compromised the top 2 and a few other tabulator systems across the U.S., you can change the outcome of an election because these are used across the United States.
Right.
The argument was there's no way our elections could be compromised because every state runs their own elections.
Mm-hmm.
Every state has separate systems. Mm-hmm. That is incorrect. We use
3 different machines.
We
basically.
use generally
2
some
to
of the
3.
top brands.
And I've already said those, even though you didn't.
Perhaps have highlighted some of the concerns.
Yeah.
So
it's Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, basically. We say
right.
Okay.
And the main concern here is Spoonamore was technically incorrect because he said, "Hey, they're just adding votes." Our data has now revealed concerns of more going on, not just adding in votes, changing votes, deleting votes. And so that's what we're going to highlight with our data today.
The data. Okay, so you're not saying
that's
that.
our
the
analysis.
The data is showing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is.
Yeah,
this
and we'll
is,
jump into it.
I'm getting like.
Now here's my favorite part because now we're actually going to talk numbers. We're going to talk. We can
Look
talk.
how excited
he
he just got. We're going to talk numbers.
All right. So I'm going to highlight Pennsylvania specifically for this. I don't know if you've seen some of the concerns there, but we did some analysis for 3 of the largest counties of Pennsylvania. Obviously, one is Philadelphia. That's the most heavily populated.
Wait. Am I reading that correctly? So of the 200 plus bomb threats, 32 counties in Pennsylvania were hit?
At least 32. That's almost, I think that's almost half of their counties.
Shit.
Yep. And
what?
And these were the more densely populated areas.
Philly.
And the main concern here as well is there was so much going on in Philadelphia on election night. We pulled some videos.
Because Pennsylvania was super important.
It was very important.
If not the most important state.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay.
Very large amount of the electoral college votes are Pennsylvania. And so we're going to break down these 3 counties.
Holy fuck.
They do vote by 3 different types of voting.
I'm going to say that a lot today, I think.
So they have provisional, which is really small. It's like less than 1%. And then you have mail-in, which is almost half or less. In this election, it was maybe closer to 40% of the votes was mail-in.
I have a question. Didn't Trump want to stop mail-in voting?
We're actually...
He said that a bunch of times. Mail voting can be moved,
Oh, he
right?
changed it this election, but yeah.
So there are quotes.
He did say that, right?
There are quotes. Certain people talking about mail-in voting and other concerns.
How it's easy to manipulate, blah, blah, blah. But it turns out
the concern was
you can't manipulate mail-in voting because it's hand counted.
Generally speaking, there are.
Is it? Or is it fed into a tabulator?
It is fed into a tabulator.
Ah, shit.
And we're going to talk about this today. We've not talked about this before. We're going to show that in the data. Everyone
I'm learning there's no Santa Claus.
Yeah. And
I don't like this.
All right,
this is worse than no Santa Claus. This is like it's Satan Claus. I don't like this at all.
I love it. So,
okay, so I'm going to be clear. So 32 counties, which is incredible percentage wise. So that's obviously coordinated. Obviously, someone had to do that. Like that's not because a bunch of randos don't get together and start calling them bomb threats on the same day at the same time.
These were emailed them.
Jesus Christ.
Emails of the counties. So
okay.
The counties receive these emails.
And so
that requires you knowing all the emails to the counties.
How many electoral votes is Pennsylvania?
I'll have to double check, but it is a lot. It's
okay. Second, let's go.
I think let me guess. 17? I'll have to double check. I don't think that's right. Shit. Something around there. They did do audits though. And this is why I think
19.
19. Ooh, too off.
That's a lot.
So that is a lot compared to some of these other swing states. Pennsylvania is kind of a need for a lot of people to win. You can do it other ways, but Pennsylvania really helps you win. So they did do audits after the election. And so the two audits they did a 2% audit across the state. Each county, 2% of the votes or 2,000 ballots. Either one, whichever one was less. And then they did a risk limiting audit of the 32 counties for the state treasurer's race. I'm going to highlight these things. So a risk limiting audit specifically is you're going to do X% of the votes, and then you're going to pretty much say, hey, the risk is low that there was manipulation because we checked.
Everything looks right.
We checked. And everywhere we checked was
percentage-wise, it looks okay.
Yeah, it's a sampling. You're sampling. So the problem is they only did the state treasurer race. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wait.
For the risk limiting, yeah.
They only wait.
Yeah.
Wait. The presidential election, they did just the state treasurer.
Yeah, for the risk limiting audit, which was the larger concern.
The fuck point is that? That's mine. I'm sorry, guys. You're my bad.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a professional. White House. What the fuck? Oh God. I'm not answering this.
Upper windows that people could breach through. You'd have a skylight.
Climb on the mezzanine.
Come through.
And don't look behind you. What?
Yeah.
What's happening? Wait a minute. I don't understand. What's the point? Whose idea is it to go, hey, let's just, the big thing this time is the state treasurer's race. We want to make sure. That makes no sense at all. Why would you wouldn't you sample it doesn't make any sense.
Yep. And the concern was as well, they did sample a few of the races for the audit of 2%, the presidential race. But the problem is, here's what we want to highlight. Okay. And as we talk about data, is if you were to compromise tabulation machines and do it in a very specific way, you would already have prepared to defeat these audits.
Right.
They're a sampling-based audit.
And also, if it was bullet ballots and the machines were actually they were upvoting the presidential race, you would actually not analyze that. You would analyze a lower level race where that had nothing to do with the tabulators.
Here's the concern. And these audits, they're under, and we pulled the audits. We pulled some of the audits that they've been doing, not just in Pennsylvania, but other places. And they're using certain things. We're going to look into it more. We're going to put out reports. But the bottom line is they're undersampling the denser places. And as we'll talk about in our data, if you're changing votes, if you're switching votes, you're doing them at higher turnout. You're doing them at places where more people are voting.
Yeah.
And
that's
you're auditing the opposite places.
Right.
So they're going out of their way to audit the places with the lower turnout. Mm-hmm. So because those would show less of a vote change. But if you went into deep Philadelphia, especially in blue districts, what would happen was it would show in a blue district that the votes were exceptionally just too much for the Republican candidate in a blue district. And that would obviously be a red flag for everybody. So what you do is, you go to the tiny places. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we sampled 40 different places.
Easier to count, smaller.
Oh yeah, we don't want to put anybody through a nightmare.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that's the concerns is
holy shit.
Their audits.
I'm gonna have to conceal carry just to protect myself after knowing all this shit.
And it gets a little you kill me.
This episode brought to you by Vessi Footwear.
Oh, Vessi
and
shoes.
They have rain jacket. Here he is.
He
is actually sleeping in them. He has never taken them off.
Can I tell you
my pillows?
Can I say this? So I have 2 pair. I wear I travel in them. They are the most comfortable shoes I have ever worn. They are the best travel shoes for anywhere. Yes.
Why? Tell us why.
Super comfortable. They feel like it's not even like putting on shoes.
Yes.
It's like putting on the nicest pair of they feel like socks, but they're shoes and
like
they
little,
look good.
Little
they
hands
look
just.
They're just awesome.
I could speak from experience because I have a standing desk upstairs when I edit. So I'm on my feet and I don't realize it.
Yes.
So before I got these Vessi shoes, I would get home and be like, oh, my feet are achy. Not anymore.
I have never seen you love something this much.
Yeah.
Either of you, actually.
No. This is why I don't date. I love my shoes.
That is not why. We don't even have that kind of time. They are weather ready. If you guys don't know, not only do they look awesome, they're very light, they're very comfortable. There's all kinds of styles to choose from, but they're also waterproof.
I took them to the cabin in the snow, and I had the high top ones, and nothing.
They're also really stylish. You can get he's got the high tops.
You would never know.
He wears the low tops when he travels because they're quick off and on. I have kind of an oxblood color Chelsea boots. And when you're traveling, they slide off and on. And we tested them in the snow, completely submerged in the snow.
Yep.
And not a drop of water got in them. And then you can kind of shake them and the water falls off.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy. So obviously we love this company.
That lives up to what it says.
Yeah.
It's always good when the marketing matches. I like that. Vessi.
So pack smarter and travel better with Vessi because you can wear them traveling, then go hike in them or walk on the beach, then wear them to dinner that night. That's how stylish they are. Go to Vessi.com/Titus right now for 15% off your first pair at checkout and start exploring with confidence. Say yes to spontaneous trips, rainy day adventures with Vessi. That's Vessi.com/Titus. You'll stay comfortable and you'll get an instant 15% off your first purchase.
Awesome. All right, let's go back to the charts.
And it gets a little deeper too.
Oh, come on.
Because are you familiar with drop-off analysis?
Drop-off. Okay. All right. No, go. You go.
Yeah. So what?
Look, I'll try to shut up. It's hard for me because
you ask your questions. I like anything you're like, hey, I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, I have no idea what you're talking about. Go to drop off.
Perfect. That's why I'm here. So, so the way you read this is a comparison for Pennsylvania, all the counties in the state, and what we're looking at is how many votes the presidential candidate got for each party,
right,
compared to another race of their party. So in this case, it's the
so all the down ballot races. It should be the same pretty much.
And so here's the senator, right? The president versus the senator. And the way you read this on the bottom here is you have all the voting types. 2 of the voting types. Provisional is so small, it's nothing.
Right.
So you have mail-in, you have election day.
Okay.
And so on the left, the y-axis it's the drop-off percent. So it's, hey, if I get 100 votes and the senator gets 50%, I am technically speaking 100% over, I am double. Right. And so what we're seeing, this is for both candidates. Red is Trump.
Okay, wait, hold on. This is where I start to get confused. All right. So.
Well, here, let me. So red is Trump.
Got it.
Blue is Harris.
Right.
We're going to start on the left.
Right.
So you have 0%. That is the amount of votes the senator got. Okay. So the 0. So if both the president and the senator got the same amount of votes, you're going to be 0. This isn't going to exist.
Got it.
So as you get further, you're going to see the percentage of both candidates in how many votes they got. And what's interesting about Pennsylvania is they had some interesting counties, but this is averaged out. So this is every county in the state. We're going to, in a next slide, highlight the counties individually, and you'll see the change.
Why on election day is the percentage so
That
higher?
Is the question.
Why?
Why is it? Yeah. So the way you're looking at it, right?
That makes no sense.
Mail in.
That's about right.
Both candidates
right.
get around 1 to 2%. Right. This is consistent with past elections. This is consistent.
Going back 100 years.
Averaging out. This averages out. That is generally what you're going to see. Why? Because you get some really high, some really low. It averages. That's what we expect to see. If that is the baseline, why is it on election day we see the Republican presidential candidate getting a significantly more amount of votes,
almost 5 times more
than the senator, who should just, that's the point, is if you're going to vote.
So you didn't vote. So you just voted for the president, but didn't vote for the senator, who's basically a third of the whole system. And wait, it doesn't make any sense.
And the Democrats won multiple.
Did that happen with the Democrats at all? Does any states of this flip? I'm just saying.
Yes, there were many swing states that
asking,
the Democrats.
Is this percentage consistent anywhere else, or is this just swing states?
There are other states that are not swing states that have the same pattern.
Okay.
Same symptom. And we're highlighting this because, as you said, why is the presidential candidate getting so many more?
That makes no sense.
And why is it only happening on election day?
Right.
And we're going to kind of break it down by county. But the
point being, it would happen.
Let him say why.
No, you're fine.
I'm trying.
to
just so you guys know, I'm interrupting for one reason. You're super smart. You're saying you're very dense. I'm trying to make sure that everybody pays attention. So if that's the percentage for election day, there is no reason why it shouldn't be exactly the same on mail-in.
Yes. Why is there such a difference?
Except it's not a little difference. That's a lot of difference. Statistically, it's a fucking huge difference.
Tell people that are listening what you're seeing.
So guys, if you look at this right now, if you look at mail-in, right, it's basically, the Republicans won. Okay. And that's just is that down ballot too?
No. So sorry, let me address that. This is just that comparison.
Okay.
The Democrats generally have higher amounts of votes for mail-in. This is just showing that even though Trump got less than the amount of mail-in votes, it doesn't matter. How does he compare to the Senate?
Right.
So even in mail-in, where the Democrats are killing it generally, he's still sitting 1% to 2%, and they're both doing it. And that's what we're saying is, why do we see such a shift between vote types?
Yes.
Right.
Because then on election day,
there's more people voting.
It's radically different.
What ends up happening is when in the big districts where there's more people voting, if the machines kicked in, if the algorithm kicks in later in the machines, the more people vote. Fuck.
This episode brought to you by a new advertiser, one that I am completely here for. Hungry Root.
Hungry Root.
How did you know what I was going to say?
Because they were good, because the food was good. We've had some really good food advertisers. Hungry Root, by the way, took a level of...
It's kind of crazy.
There's a level of simplicity in it that I loved.
It's basically like having your own personal grocery shopper.
Yes.
But for higher quality, healthier things that are better for your body, which we love.
Yep.
They basically take care of your weekly grocery shopping. They recommend healthy groceries that are all tailored to your tastes, to your nutrition preferences, and whatever your health goals are. So you go in and you put those things in your profile, and then it builds your weekly grocery cart, and you can change it. And so you get all these really cool groceries.
Unpacking it was fun.
I
will be honest, unpacking it was a blast.
It's high quality, nutritious food. Some things you'll recognize, like when you're in Whole Foods or at Ralph's or whatever, but also it made us try new things.
Yep.
So suddenly we have these really high quality, nutritious pantry things that we can grab and go. They have pre-made foods that you throw in the fridge and you grab and go. They have 5-minute meals, and I made those beef street tacos.
Yes, those are all awesome.
Which you said, I think this is my favorite thing you've ever made. And I was like, that took like 4 minutes.
Exactly. I'm a simple man.
I made the stir fry. I made the
stir fry was
chicken
good.
Veggie fried rice.
We haven't had anything that wasn't good.
And there's things for your whole family. If you have kids, we even got those honey grams that I ate the whole box. It's Simple Mills honey grams. So it's like name brand foods that you know, and you put it in your cart, and it's a lot more affordable and easier to do it this way. But I ate the whole box of those honey grams while we watched TV. I'm not proud of it. No high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, or preservatives in any of their food.
I think that's
their
what I like.
meat is hormone free and antibiotic.
What I like, that's what I think that was, beside it all being great, I loved that part of it.
I love all, and again, you can go change
Clean,
it,
yeah.
add, take things away, do what you want. I love Hungry Root. Take advantage of this offer for a limited time. You can get 40% off of your first box and get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Titus. Use code Titus. That's hungryroot.com/Titus. And then use promo code Titus. You'll get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Titus.
Good stuff.
Promo code Titus.
All right. So let's go back to seeing how bad democracy has failed us.
How many more examples of this manipulation are there?
So here, let me.
I already watched
No,
this
you're
once.
fine.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, so
I don't want
here-
to get ahead. Sorry.
Let's
shut up. God.
Let's talk.
Don't flip me off, guys. They're off camera flipping me off. They're like, stop.
No. Let's talk this then.
Okay.
Let's talk. What could cause this that isn't manipulation,
Okay.
right? What's the talking point? What have
Right.
you heard? What have you heard?
I haven't heard anything about this. This is crazy. So this is bullet vote, right? That's just presidential. That's
In this case, yes. In this case, this is just
so in
votes for the
Democrats,
president.
it was less than 1%. But for some reason, and these are people, and if Trump supporters are insane, they're Republican down. They're Republican. They're hardcore. I mean, Democrats too. But for it to not be the same, it should be about the same. Let's say it's even if it just matched mail-in, it would just be up a little bit. Instead, it's almost 5 times as much. That's crazy.
And what's important to notice here is the argument is, hey, could this be caused by Democrats voting mail-in aggressively and Republicans showing up, election day early voting, right? And that's the argument, is saying, hey, as said, people don't trust mail-in voting.
Right.
The problem is this isn't the amount of votes. This isn't, are the Democrats winning or losing each? It's how is the president compared to the next down ballot race?
Yeah.
Which is a potential symptom of other things. And so the reason why we're highlighting this is we would expect to see both be similar. Mm-hmm. And because they're not, as you mentioned, this could be a symptom of vote manipulation. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, because one of the things that has really been odd to us is that, for example, on a ballot, AOC was selected and then Trump was selected.
So you had asked, are we seeing this in other places? The Democrats won, I think, 6 different lower down ballot positions across the swing states, and Trump won the presidency.
Yeah, that's not a
In that
thing.
state.
Not
In
these
that
days, anyway.
In that state. And so you're voting.
That makes no sense.
You're voting in. Some of the candidates were like very liberal type candidates, like women candidates. And
it wasn't like the centrist Democrat one. It was
and
like,
so
it was Trump.
Alyssa Slotkin won.
So they're winning.
Trump won.
They're winning down ballot.
I feel like I'm screwing you up, and I don't want to. I want to be very clear about this, guys, because I think I've confused things. This basically, there's 4.51% of bullet ballots, basically, where the president only was voted for, and on the Democrats, it was less than 1%.
No, this is comparing the presidential votes versus the Senate, which you're just doing the next down ballot.
You're both right. Yeah. So it would be, in this case, bullet ballots.
He's lying.
No. It would be bullet ballots if you want to use that term. We don't really use that term just because it's super confusing. But these are votes that were only cast for the president, not cast for the Senate. So we're seeing the Republican presidential candidates getting 4% more votes.
So you're telling me that
4% more voters.
These MAGA Republicans came in, just voted for Trump, and decided to let Democrats win the lower races. That's not realistic.
Can I just throw something into the background touching on what I said earlier, because I found a specific example. I'm actually questioning myself now. After Bannon was pardoned by Trump,
right,
he went on the War Room podcast, which has tens of millions of listeners. And he said specifically, this is your call to action. And his direct quote is, it's going to be a fight, but a fight that must be won. We don't have an option. We're going to take this back village by village, precinct by precinct. They called it the precinct strategy. And after that, it rocketed across fringe sites, QAnon sites, talk radio, all of this. Suddenly, these people came out of the woodwork to become poll workers. precinct workers. Even the party chair in Wisconsin said, we have never signed up election inspectors like this in the history. Like, there were Florida people, like Florida quoted, I've never seen anything like this. People have come out of the woodwork, and it's all Republican, not Democrat.
That would go to what he said earlier about if the bomb threats are called in and the chain of custody is broken.
They called it the precinct strategy.
Oh shit!
So if this is blowing your mind already, you're gonna have to have some.
No, I'm hurting.
You're gonna need.
I'm gonna have to drink tonight, honestly,
because this is kind of what we introduce the concerns with.
My question is this a normal voting pattern, or is this weird?
This is 24.
Okay.
For Pennsylvania. This is all votes.
All right, explain what this is. Go ahead.
So it's the same thing. It's just we're looking at each county as a bar. Similar to what we saw before. It's 0% is the amount of votes the senator got in this case. If you're above the line, you got more votes than the senator as president. And if you're below the line, you got less.
Wow.
And so averaging things out before kind of paints a little bit of a picture. But now we're going to talk about consistency across what?
Because everything below the line except for one little tiny one
is the Democrats. Yep. And so here's the concern here.
This is the one that upset me when I watched this.
Yep. And so why we highlight this, the foundation to really starting to do this analysis was so good. He is a statistician. And he said, hey, if there was a concern of tabulation, changing votes for like the president, if we look at the president versus the senator, are they underperforming consistently across multiple counties? And that's where we talk about if you've compromised the tabulation system, it's going to be, in order to change the outcome of an election for like a state or more, you're going to have to consistently cheat and change votes all across the counties, precinct by precinct, county by county, state by state. So what we're looking at here is we're seeing it, there is a little bit of chaos here. There's a few places, right, where it's more, both are slightly that 1% to 2%.
What does it normally look like? What is a normal election?
A normal election is going to just look like absolute chaos, up, down. Both candidates are going to be above and below the line per county. Here we're seeing that the only consistent underperformance is the Democrats. And it's almost always mirroring anywhere the Democrats are really low, the Republicans are generally higher. And the concern there is, if you were to be changing votes from one candidate to the other, it's going to cause a pattern, a drop-off type of pattern. And so I'm going to show you the next slide.
Okay.
And here's what's important. This is all the votes. I'm going to show you mail-in versus election day.
Oh, it's going to hurt.
Mail-in on the left versus election day on the right. And so remember we talked about a significant overperformance for Trump on election day?
Yes.
We're seeing the underperformance for Harris mirroring on election day. Mail-in looks far more random, chaotic, and normal. We don't see as much underperformance for the Democrats.
And on election day, there is zero
ask your questions.
red below the line.
So the reality would be, so that's a normal election. And we can back this data up on the mail-in
It
ballot.
is a more normal election.
And in a sense, I'm saying that we can back this data up with past elections, right?
Yes, we see that in
this
slide
data,
here.
This data goes more towards a Russian election.
Yeah, we don't need that slide. Yep. I wouldn't say more towards a Russian election because
recent Russian
they do different things.
Okay.
And so we'll kind of talk about other elections here.
So what did this just happen? Okay, all right. Now I'm going to ask another question because again, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I never want to just jump on board and go, aha.
Do we only see this for 24?
Did we see this? Okay, we saw this for 24, right? This is 24.
Mm-hmm.
Did this happen across the country? Or
yes.
did it?
We see this in North Carolina. We see this in Texas. We see this in a little bit in Nevada, but Nevada, as I said, only has 2 very liberal counties.
Right.
So it's a little different. We see this across multiple swing states, the same consistency. And the concern is it's potentially a non-human voting pattern, a algorithmic consistency. It should be random because people don't coordinate between counties to all vote a certain way. It's going to vary.
Have you looked at all states?
Smart Elections, which is a another nonpartisan organization that has been investigating elections. They put out a 50-state analysis or so, and they took the averages. And the averages kind of broke down into similar concerns what we saw. They said, hey, in the swing states, we're seeing a noticeably stronger difference between the president and the senator, but then averaged out across all the other non-swing states, it's closer to 1 to 2% for both. And they're seeing negative performance for Harris.
So I'm just going to put something crazy out. This is me just spewing, okay? So if the machines had been compromised in any way, shape, or form, if they had, let's just say they have.
If they had, okay.
If they had, because we're not saying they have. And you actually just program the machine with the algorithm to basically say, okay, every 5th ballot, it's going to change the presidential vote. That would still leave all the Democrat down ballot stuff. Right?
If you were changing that one race.
If you were saying, right. So that would actually make that happen. Because what would happen is this didn't happen, but every 5th vote, it changes for Trump. Every 4th, it changes for Trump.
It would cause that consistent pattern.
This.
Because you'd be taking votes from one candidate, they'd start dropping below the senator.
And yet,
and you're adding them to the other.
Yet it wouldn't, because that would be a lot of programming. If you had to do it to all the down ballot races and the whole ballot, that would take a lot more programming.
No.
It wouldn't. Okay.
And we're going to show you potential manipulation of down ballot races as
potential.
well.
Keep using the word potential because I don't want to
here's why we highlight this. We're highlighting this, and this is where it got confusing. In the beginning, we weren't sure what was going on. That was the whole point. We said, hey, here's a symptom. This could be a symptom of vote changing, right? Or manipulating votes or deleting votes, whatever's happening. You're changing things. This isn't human voting behavior. We said,
yeah, that's weird. That's
it's too consistent.
Yeah, that's
right?
Exactly.
It's too consistent. And the concern here is this would only show up because you're changing votes or you're changing more votes for the presidential race. And so we're actually going to kind of highlight that and break that down a little more because we show you the concerns.
Before we do that, though, hey, we're going to take a little break, guys. Ray's going to talk to you about who makes this happen.
This episode brought to you by one of our faves, True Classic. It's hard to find clothing, kind of like we were talking about the shoes that are transitional. That I like True Classic because it's tailored. You look really well put together, but you're comfortable. So you could literally go from the gym, go to work, and then go to date night. Please shower in between. I should mention that. Their shirts are so good because they're actually designed to fit you better, to accentuate the places that you want to accentuate, like your arms.
I have to be honest.
chest.
I put on, I look for my True Classic t-shirts now because they fit so well. I've been working out with our other advertiser, Fitbod, and I'm in better shape now, and they make me look so good.
You look like this in them, kind of. Because they give you a little room here, but they tailor in here. So
I don't need a little room there on my actually washboard.
Right. That's all me, baby.
Yeah.
Moisture wicking clothes, odor fighting, quick drying, antimicrobial. They have everything. So now spring is here. Now they've got swim trunks. We like the pants. We like the Henleys. They have something for every season. It's high quality premium clothing, but it's a much more affordable price than most. They also even have jeans, and you can bundle them in packs. Pretty super sweet. 100% perfect fit guarantee with easy returns if you don't agree.
Super sweet.
Whether you're bundling up for the cold or getting ready for spring, level up your style with clothes that actually fit you right. Please just go to just go to trueclassic.com/Titus.
Guys, I am not making that up. The t-shirts look so good. They really just look so good.
That's trueclassic.com/Titus. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe today. I love them. I sleep in the shirts. They're super comfortable. They never stretch out or fade. It's just good quality product.
Forget overpriced designer nonsense. Skip the cheap throwaways. True Classic delivers premium essentials built for real life. Grab yours at Target or Costco, or head to trueclassic.com/Titus to get hooked up today.
All right, welcome back, Highlander. We just saw democracy dismantled. We don't know what. Now you were kind of paying attention. What do you think of all the data?
Well, if we have some time, I brought my own charts.
Let me see the charts. Let me see. Did you bring a graph of some sort?
So I've started
Holy God.
started the Highlander Views Alliance. It is a for-profit.
Can I please see it?
Yes, can you please take that chart?
So tired.
Excuse me.
Charts.
We need to get to the bottom of this.
We are done. We have had
this is
enough
manipulation.
charts.
Nathan,
It's depressing.
I have to be honest. He made my brain hurt, and I think the thing is you have to stick with it long enough to all of a sudden it starts soaking and you realize what was done.
Yeah, clicks.
Like once I started getting the cross of like people don't show up to vote at noon,
right?
And then all of a sudden vote for one guy,
right? So that's part of like why I was like, if we could drill down and find these threads of like, there's something fishy going on here. How did all these people show up at this time? There's not even enough parking spaces. But
also, the weird part of when I watched the chart, it's at exactly halfway through.
Yeah,
like it wasn't at. So no one would do that anyway. You know, maybe let's say all the buses for Trump show up. They don't all show up at noon.
Right.
They show up 1:30, 2, 3.
It's like, bing.
Yeah.
It should be more of a linear. I got a fancy word for this.
Devastating, and you can see what a crazy, insurmountable amount of work it's going to be. They're already 4 months into it, and he even said this is the tip of the iceberg. And that's why I feel so frustrated. Like, why didn't Biden and Kamala do something? And as they were leaving, she said, well, to be fair, they didn't have this. I mean, it's taken this long to gather that much, and they're not going to get help at this point from anyone anymore.
So we got something and we're talking off camera, and they said that Tulsi Gabbard has actually said she's going to start investigating the Dems because they're changing votes, which means
in 2020,
because what they mean, and that's why he went after Chris Krebs and everything else too. So what's happened is that these guys, the ETA, the Election Truth Alliance, has basically are starting to get out there.
Yeah. And when are they going to do it? That's what I want to know with ETA.
And they are, man. God, I missed you. I missed you. I have to say I missed you. What's the ETA and the ETA? So we want you to know that as Trump always will accuse others of doing what he did, Tulsi Gabbard's already saying she's going to invest the vote changing in 2020 because these guys are getting out there. We hope that guys do me a favor, go to ETA, $5, $10, help them. They're actually using the money for attorneys. Yeah. He gave up his job to do this because he's a statistician, and he started to notice that things were wrong. And if we didn't prove to you in the 3 hours we were here, was it 3 hours?
Yeah.
Yes.
We may
maybe 4.
We may have to do 3 parts to this. I think 3 parts to it.
Trump actually directed several federal agencies this week to investigate 2 of his former officials, including Chris Krebs, who said the 2020 election was safe.
Do you understand how petty you have to be? You won.
Yeah.
He's also supporting restitution payments for January 6th defendants. You know, the ones who pled guilty. Yeah. Or the one that pooped in the halls of Congress.
And they wipe shit on the walls of Congress. And he's going to give them reparations?
Yeah. And the guy with the I Heart Auschwitz sweater on?
Yeah. Oh my God. That fuzzy little
we are at a dark time in American history, and the problem with if you know anything about history, the only way out of this is to commit some history.
He signed another executive order targeting another law firm. That would be the 9th because they represented, I believe, Dominion voting machines that sued Fox for slander and won.
Hey guys, can I tell you something? Do not hire any law firm that capitulates to this fascist dictator asshole. I already hate lawyers, but I really hate lawyers now. Like, really, you guys just folded? You see what's happening. That's how people always wonder, how did Germany happen? Didn't people do nothing? No.
And they can't defend themselves.
Well, it's so overwhelming, right? And it's...
Well, you're going to lose your business.
This is happening quickly.
Yeah.
These things that he's doing.
Bannon fled the zone.
Doge has now lowered its predicted cuts from $1 trillion. They said probably around 150 billion, possibly up, to 500.
Last thing I'm going to say. So Doge has basically decimated agency after agency. They basically, the FAA, we actually had plane crashes.
Still.
Joe Biden lowered our budget deficit by $935 billion. And he did it without firing anybody. Mm-hmm. He did it without starving children. He did it without killing kids with cancer because he stopped research. He did it with going out after any institutions without hurting veterans. He took $935 billion. This genius dipshit Elon Musk sent a crew of booger eaters in there and couldn't get in to $150 billion.
And the inspectors generals from previous generations can point to billions and billions that they actually saved
hundreds
compared to this horseshit.
And he fired all the inspector generals day one, and they were doing their job. So now what? So, guys, the dismantling of the United States is well underway. All we can do is don't comply. Don't comply. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Do you have anything else you want to say? I saw you.
It's just that there's so many.
Every day.
He has now denied FEMA aid to the state of Washington. They put in a standard request for federal assistance for areas where people were killed in the bomb cyclone. And he's denying them to Democratic.
He did it to North Carolina too, though.
All right, perfect time.
Biden is coming out to speak, though, finally, for the first time ever. I think he's speaking about Social Security.
Oh,
so
no.
This time, 2 years
by
ago.
The way, something he's actually qualified about.
Is what I said.
2 years ago, on this day, Biden approves major disaster declaration for Kentucky. He ordered federal aid to supplement the state and local recovery efforts in the areas affected by severe storms, winds, tornadoes, etc. Federal funding is available to Kentucky and eligible governments and certain private nonprofit organizations. This will be a cost-sharing basis.
Yep.
Because Biden didn't care if you voted for him or not. You were an American.
And that is a red county.
Yeah, he's a red county.
He gave it to Florida.
Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This was a long one. This was an epic, but I needed to be said. Please watch it with knowing that something happened.
With vodka.
Yeah. I would sit down and you're gonna. And I tried to keep him. I told him that the one thing I saw you do. Another thing is that there was no exclamation point. We needed to stop and go. Wait, hold on. Explain this.
And then drink every time.
Yeah.
You say.
if we would have drank every time I said fuck, I would be under the table right now. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And really appreciate it. Keep fighting. Scream sanity to everybody you can. Keep pointing out what a dipshit this guy is. For myself, the lovely Bombshell Ray and the Highlander. Later.
Peace out.
There can be only one.